Good evening, everyone. I'm really, really pleased to be connecting with all of you tonight. This, of course, is going to be another Arcturian transmission. They've really grown on me, I have to say. So I think it's been over a month that I'm working with them now, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So let's give it maybe a minute or two, and then we will begin. I hope you guys are well. Thank you to everyone who donated this last week. I really appreciate you. And thank you to everyone who subscribed as well. I think in the next few months we might hit 100K on YouTube, which is really exciting, given the fact I've only been on here for 2 years, so that's pretty good. But it's also thanks to Instagram. What's been absolutely wonderful about connecting with the Arcturians is that now I can recognize their signature immediately. So I go on my walks, I don't talk to them, I work with them more with my technologies. So I've become quite savvy with the Arcturian light. But then at the end, I ask them for an inpouring or an influx of information that I can then relay to you guys. And they told me to commit to them for 30 days, and I did. And I've noticed that now, whenever they come through, the front of my forehead vibrates ever so slightly. So it's almost like a pager. Remember the pagers we used to use in high school? I'm in 83. I was born in 83. We used to have pagers, and it vibrates. My forehead vibrates ever so slightly. And that's when I know that that's them. And the information comes in really, really fast, like at light speed. But I'm able to, I wish there was, there you go. It comes in at light speed, but I'm now able to decode the information really fast. All right, so we're gonna begin because we have 900 people in the house already. Oh, thank you, Judith. I appreciate you so much. I'm sending you all my love. Thank you. All right, so I got a flurry of downloads tonight. It's not going to be as complex as the last video. I think it was called, I titled it Connecting with the Arcturians. This is going to be a lot more simplistic in nature, but they have a lot of exciting news for us tonight, especially given the fact that it is December 21st. And they said that this message is going to be applicable all the way to 2021. And so I'm really excited to update you guys, bring you up to speed on what's going on right now. And yes, happy solstice, everyone. So they were saying that this is the crossing of the threshold. We've crossed it already. And if you can think of crossing the threshold as the superhero that leaves his planet or her planet to embark on a new adventure, and there is no going back, it's a point of no return, they were saying that we've crossed that threshold and we can't look back anymore. We can't look in our rear view mirrors and turn around and go back home. They were saying to me right before I hopped in, or I hopped on here, they were saying that they've passed the baton to us, that we are now in charge of conducting the orchestra. So we have these invisible batons, and every single one of you have one. You've all been appointed with this new duty of being the emissaries for groups like the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Syrians. We are the Galactics who are now here on the ground, who are going to be conducting the orchestra of this magnificent ascension. We are going to be the ones who are symphonizing all these energies, who are harmonizing and synchronizing all of these different energies. And it's a very exciting time. I got a lot of messages though. So they are going to be pretty quantum, although very easy to digest, very easy to comprehend. So they were showing me a very vivid vision of how, and I'm sure this has happened to you on numerous occasions, how when you lie in life, or how when you still harbor resentment or you still hold a grudge, thank you, Reggie, thank you, Sarah, thank you guys, how when you, hopefully you can feel me emanate my love and light. But yes, I'm going to stay on topic because otherwise I'm going to get absorbed. But I love you guys so much. Thank you. When you lie, you feel dirty, right? You feel dusty. You feel like there's a hairball that's stuck in your chest that you have to spit out. You know that feeling, yes? To me, it happened a lot as I was learning to live as a dot, not wanting to pencil anything into my schedule. And then there were a few instances where I said yes to someone prematurely, and then I felt really dirty. And I heard God, source, say to me, you're just on a different path, Phil. You need to accept that you don't live conventionally, and you need to cancel these plans right away. And at first, I really fought it. I didn't want to accept that I'm being led into this new way of existing, of not planning anything and really just being in the flow, in that divine flow. But I eventually came to terms with it, and I feel so much more peaceful. But whenever I had instances where I said yes prematurely, going against my truth, and really still objecting to what my guides wanted for me, because when you're on this quantum path, when you're on this spiritual journey, you are no longer living a life of conformity at all. I mean, but you work all day long. Me and Lori were talking about this the other night. Even when you're staring at a wall, you're reading energies, you're downloading information, you're disassembling that information. So you never stop working. There's always something to do. And in order to be on your game, in order to be an efficient decoder of this energy, you can't have too much crammed in your mind. Anyways, I just wanted to give you that example that, and there's been times in my life where I will, I don't know, lie. I don't lie anymore. I literally get sick. And then you get sick to your stomach. And you have to kind of you have to vomit that energy out. You have to purge it. So they were showing me that whenever you're in that mode of feeling dirty, feeling yucky, feeling gunky, feeling muddy, and you can't help but to get out what you need to get out. It could be something as simple as you've been wanting to get something off your chest with someone that you love and you haven't done it, or maybe you haven't been fully honest with someone about cheating on them, or whatever the case might be, and you start to really feel like a sinner, right? You're not a sinner, but you start to feel really out of vibrational accord with your higher self. So they were showing me, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. They were showing me that when you feel that impulse to come clean, for lack of better words, to come clean, to atone for what you've done, this can be gossiping about someone as well, and you feel really dirty, like you've invited this poison into your blood, and you need to purify yourself and sanitize yourself in order to clarify yourself. They were saying that in many regards, there are guides watching you. They're watching you. I call them the watchers, because the forces of the universe are always spying on you. They're always wanting to ensure that you're going to do the right thing, that you're going to course correct yourself, that you're going to rectify, purify, and clarify yourself. So they were showing me that whenever you are feeling that energy that you just have to get out of your system, that is guides. You can call them your council or your star family, or perhaps your higher self, your team. They're staring at you. And because they hold such a high frequency, their frequency targets everything that you're not wanting to come clean about. So you're going to get rattled, right? Your cage is going to get super rattled because you know it's time to make amends, because you know it's time to come clean. And I have to say, 2011, 2012 were probably my most intense years of my awakening because I had to make a lot of phone calls, if you know what I mean. I had to say sorry to a lot of people. I was really shady, y'all. I was really shady. I had to, it wasn't fun. But the thing is, your guides, once you start to atone, your guides really want you to shine your flashlight on every single thing that you've done to then rectify or course correct yourself, right? And so they were showing me, so I want you to follow this. They were showing me that there are all these beings basically staring at you, watching you interdimensionally. And they care about your welfare, they care about your well being, which is why your cage gets rattled, because you know that there's something within you that's darker. It's like a darker, venomous or poisonous energy that you now need to dispel, that you now need to spit out, because otherwise it's going to keep you halted at the status quo of where you are, and there's so much more to achieve. So they were saying that we've become those guides. They were saying that we are now passing the torch onto you, or we're passing the baton onto you, and that you are now these walking portals into these higher dimensional planes of existence, that you are the luminous ones, that you are the transparent ones, that there is nothing to hide where we currently stand. They were showing me that New Earth is here. They were showing me, they actually said this to me, all right? They said, I don't know why, they're very Christed in their consciousness. And although I haven't read the Bible, I'm very familiar with the saying, the meek will inherit the earth. And the Arcturians said to me tonight so clearly, okay, so clearly, they said, the meek have inherited the new earth. The meek have already inherited the new earth. And they were kind of making a joke like 2.0, right? It's that saying reinvented, or that saying renewed, or rewritten. The meek have already inherited the new earth. Now, when your guides, when these higher dimensional beings of love and light stare at you, they spy on you, right? They're not doing it in a way that's invasive. They truly care about you because you have signed agreements, if you will, metaphorically, pre-birth, pre-incarnation, that you would fulfill these duties that have been appointed to you. And so your guides want to keep you on your toes. They want to make sure that you see to it that you accomplish what it is that you came here to accomplish on this earth plane. And so now that we have become these beings that are filled with love, filled with light, we don't observe people, or we don't watch people with judgment. Your guides don't watch you in judgment. But what happens is, and this is what I loved, they said that when you look at someone or you just spectate from a place of neutrality, right? You're just being consciousness. You're being the embodiment of that higher consciousness, being that you are. What it does is it rattles our cage. When our guides watch us, we get rattled to the core. We get shaken to the core because we know that something is out of accord with our native frequency, with our angelic selves. Yes? But they're not judging you. What it is that you're judging yourself. What it is that anything that's unclean, anything that's impure, is then brought up to the surface, is then catalyzed, because it's through that judgment that you stay in a state of separation, of limitation, and of lack of integration. So they basically stare at you in a neutral stance, and then everything that is polarized within your system that has yet to be neutralized within your energy body system then comes up to the surface to be seen, to be relived, to be played out again, if you will, or to be felt. And as you process those emotions, you are then able to neutralize what caused you to polarize. Okay? You're then able to neutralize what caused you to polarize. Wow, we have 1,700 people in the house. I think this is the most we've had. So, getting on with it. They were saying that we are now in charge of becoming these passive observers. And I was talking to Elizabeth April the other night. We text all the time. And I was telling her, Elizabeth, I call her EA. I call her Earth Alien and Earth Angel. I love Elizabeth. She's so sweet. I told her on a text message, I don't know what's going on, but I'm getting all these intense upgrades and all these new cities. For those of you who don't know, cities in Eastern philosophies or in yogic traditions are the divine abilities that we all have that unlock in divine time. So a CD might be that you can bilocate, yes? A CD might be that you can activate your third eye and remote view. A CD might be that something as simple as finding different pockets in your system to breathe into, to, if you will, clear different programs that are deeply embedded in your muscular skeletal structure. It might be self-healing. That could be a CD. A CD could be your clairvoyance, basically unveiling people and seeing right through the smoke in the mirrors. That's a CD. A CD might be an out-of-body experience. And I told her, I have this new CD that's very interesting that I've never experienced before. And it has to do with claiming, right? The reclamation, if you will, or the claiming of your psychic sovereignty. Because a lot of us have become quite adept at being physically sovereign, mentally sovereign, emotionally sovereign. But the Arcturians have been making me work on my psychic sovereignty. So what does this look like? Well, I'm in LA, so it's kind of a battlefield here. It's kind of like a war zone. I'm basically the only man who doesn't wear a mask when I'm outside. So it's been pretty rough, but I'm handling it. But what's been happening is when I walk, the Arcturians want me to look down. So usually I have no qualms about looking directly in someone's eyes without judgment, right? Neutrally observing them. I've been doing that for years. This is different. They've been having me look down, right? Being in my own sovereign space. And when other people's entities that are attached to them stare at me, I will use my third eye. It's almost like my astral body. Or I want to say it's more like a third eye. If you can imagine a drone, you know those drones that people fly? My third eye kind of leaves my body and will stand firm in who I am, knowing that I'm doing nothing wrong. And all the energies that are coming at me, that are gunning for me, I love that term, gunning for me, I will just passively observe them. There's a difference between actively or aggressively observing someone and passively observing. So I just stay there. It's a very Christed consciousness. I'm looking down, so the people can't really blame me or attack me because I'm not looking at them. But then they kind of raise their eyebrow like a dog. This is what I see through my third eye, like, huh? Like, why is this person so meek? And yet they're in my head, right? But I'm not in their head. I'm just passively observing like a gatekeeper. That's all I'm doing. So I said this to Elizabeth. She's like, dude, that's been happening to me too. That's the Christed consciousness. It's literally like this, almost like an omnipresence where it has a very airy feel. It's not very third eye, like, it's not like that. That's something different. It's not like your third eye is pulsating and throbbing. It's not like that. It's very floaty. It's very airy. And that's been happening to me so much this week where I'm like, wow, this is absolutely astonishing and fascinating and super interesting. But the Arcturians called it passive observation. And so all of you who are here now, this is your time. There's a lot more I have to cover, so stick with me. They were saying to me that your sovereignty in the psychic realm is being able to neutrally, passively observe all the entities that are attached to people within the astral realm. They can be thought forms, they can be beings that are bound to those people based on those people's choices. You have to remember, entities or thought forms of a negative nature, they are not able to bind themselves to you, to attach onto you, unless you're making choices to diminish yourself, unless you're making choices to lower your vibration. They can't do that. It's if you make a choice that is fear-based, that is guilt-based, that is shame-based, that they can then attach onto you. All right? Let me see what else. I wrote a couple notes right before I jumped on. So the meek have already inherited the new earth. Okay. This is really profound. I think you're going to love this. They were saying that all of you have passed with flying colors. So December 21st is the threshold. Like, we've passed the marker. We've crossed the bridge. And everything that you've been doing all of these years, the shadow work, wasn't really shadow work. It was, but it wasn't. And this is what they broke down so beautifully and thoroughly. They said that what we called shadow work was actually us interacting with everything that's now going to occur in the physical world. So we were interfacing, intermingling, interacting with all of the events through our shadow work within those psychic landscapes, within those higher dimensional landscapes. And they called it a scrimmage. And I haven't heard that word in such a long time. When I used to play basketball, because I was a pretty dope basketball, I have to say, my shit was on point though. I was a pretty dope basketball player. I played for 12, 13 years. I was a point guard, so my handle was off the charts. But we used to scrimmage before games, or we used to scrimmage after practice. And the Arcturians called this a scrimmage. They called this that everything that we've done between 2012 leading all the way up to today or yesterday was a scrimmage. And now the show begins. And now the game begins. But the fun thing about it is going to be that you've already played it all out. You've already done the whole thing. But you did it within an energetic range, within a metaphysical context. I love that. Within a metaphysical context, you put in the work, you interacted with all the energies that were in your orbit, which were really the physical events, the physical people that you will now encounter in your life or re-encounter in your life. And you're now going to be sovereign. It's not going to be as intense, all right? But it will be intense in a different fashion, in the sense that you are basically this walking psychic antenna now. And the second that you walk by someone, whether you look at them or not, they feel 100% exposed. They feel like, you know, that the Arcturian said to me tonight, it's like they know that you know. They may unknowingly or inadvertently know it, but they sense that you know something about them. Okay? Now, that's not to denigrate them. It's not to devalue them. What it is that we are now the higher dimensional beings, and this baton has been passed to us, and we are going to walk around And if people are lying in their lives, if people are deceiving in their lives, if they're cheating, then they are going to feel the way that we felt when we had to clean up our act, when we had to pull our act together. Does that make sense? Good. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay. This is one more thing I want to share. So weird how, there it is. There's the lighting. Okay. So there's one more thing I want to share. Without even knowing, all right, this was not to my knowledge. I wasn't thinking last night, tomorrow is December 21st, the solstice. I wasn't thinking that. But I did feel compelled to pray last night, like old school pray, old school, right? And I called in all of the Ascended Masters, Yeshua, Saint Germain, the angelic realm, God. I was really called to pray last night. And I saw how I handled this year pretty gracefully, considering the fact that a lot of people dropped away out of my life. And it was very painful. I mean, I don't know if you guys slightly remember or vaguely remember, but the first few months of 2020, I sounded a little crazy, right? That's because I was sobbing uncontrollably. I was going through a lot of grieving, a lot of grieving. I felt very betrayed, very deserted, very abandoned. And I went through a really dark period, like to the point where I honestly didn't want to be here anymore. I was like, no one sees me in my entirety. No one gets me. I'm so misunderstood. And I love people so much, but why aren't they able to just work through these issues with me? Why can't we deepen our connection? Why can't we further cultivate a deeper bond? But I was really like in a bad, like very, very dark place, you know, and I've already been through a series of dark nights of the soul from 2011 to now. I mean, I've been through a lot in my life, but 2020 hit me pretty hard, pretty hard. And I do have a best friend named Mikey that I'm so grateful for in my life, who lives in Nebraska. He's not on social media. And he always commends me for being able to present things I'm going through in a very neutral way, where I don't peg someone as the bad guy, right? Like I'm really good at understanding the role that people play in my life. Even if they hurt me, I'm still very grateful, because I think pain is as beautiful as pleasure, because pain deepens you, you know. And my guides have always said to me, people who suffer in this world, they suffer because they're destined for greatness. They suffer because they're destined for greatness. And the pain that I endured in 2020 basically let me know that like there's a lot more ahead for me, that there is a silver lining, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But I did go through bouts of like, like how could they do this to me, right? Without making them the bad guy. But the Ascended Masters and all the beings yesterday and God, what they said to me last night was, Phil, you did a really, really good job, but they still showed me areas where I could have done a better job. So you can do a great job where you don't judge people, but maybe it might be something along the lines of like you picked up your phone when you didn't need to, right? Or you might have had a bit of an episode where you're like, how could they do this to me, right? And that's necessary, because you need to feel everything that you're supposed to feel in order to acknowledge yourself, in order to acknowledge those feelings. But they showed me little tidbits, little previews of where I could have showed up in an even purer way, right? We do the best we can with what we have. But I asked them last night, please purify my heart even more. Please sanitize my soul. And I wasn't aware of the fact that today was December 21st. And I woke up and they said to me, Phil, the reset button has been pressed. The slate has been cleaned. It's been wiped clean. And you have a new chance now. This is a time of renewal. This is a time to show up in a way where you really give thanks and you extend appreciation for every single person who's in your life, whether they've left you or not, whether they've dropped you or not. They served a purpose, even if it hurt. And they said to me, we know that it felt like, a knife was pulled out and you were bleeding, but that bleeding was synonymous with your growth. It was synonymous with all the treasures that await you, that are in store for you. So bleeding is real, but it's also the growth that you're about to have, the growth that you're about to experience. And so they said that right now they want all of us to take inventory of what we've done this year, this past year in 2020, where we could have showed up with a little more integrity. And I talked to Mikey about this today, my best friend in Nebraska, and he's very clairvoyant. He's not on social media, but and he doesn't even follow my social media, but I appreciate that, because you need someone in your life that isn't in the mix of what you're doing. You need someone to keep you grounded all the time, and I'm really grateful to have him in my life. And he said to me, Phil, you honestly, like, you inspired me this year, because not once did you talk smack about these people. I said, yeah, but I still think that there were areas where I could have been a little even more, right? Only we ourselves can know our potential. Only we can set the standard for what we're capable of. So they wanted everyone tonight to take inventory of what's happened this past year, right? And try to see what you could have done differently, little alterations that you could have made. And they were also encouraging everyone to start praying at night. We don't have to be religious about it, but there's nothing wrong with prayer. Meditation is one thing. Meditation is tuning in, right? Listening. And praying is just giving thanks for everything, for everyone in your life. Everyone in your life. And I'm going to start doing it more. I'm not going to commit to doing it every night, because whenever I do that, I end up being very defiant, because I'm very defiant. I don't like systems that tell me what to do. And I don't think I'm supposed to like systems that tell me what to do. That's the whole point of why we're here. We're here to bust those systems. We're here to fly in the face of all those conformities, of all those conventionalities, of all those rules. But I will start praying a lot more, because it does clean your soul. It does purify your heart. And then you have like that 24-hour frame where you can bring more mindfulness to how you show up in your life. So that was the message from the Arcturians tonight. The baton has been passed, my friends. One more thing. This is important. They were saying that it's really important to never, ever take people in your life for granted. Okay? When they call you, just be really grateful, right? Show your appreciation. Show up if you want to. You have a right not to. But show up when someone calls you and wants to invite you in their world. You give thanks for that experience. But if you get too attached to them and they abandon you, then don't get mad at them, right? Try to be as present as you can, moment to moment to moment. Film frame to film frame to film frame. So if you have a lover that you have a fling with and you share very intimate, affectionate moments with, if they decide to go on their merry way, in your mind, just tell yourself, God, thank you for that experience. I'm really grateful that I got to have this person in my life. One day with them is better than no day with them. So I'm really grateful for that experience. Okay? And really, right now, we're being asked to not look back. I have a pattern. My friend Mikey called me on it yesterday. He's like, Phil, why do you always try to repatch things with old friends? Why do you always go back to visit them? And come to think about it, I've been doing that my whole life. Even when I was in the music industry, I had music managers that didn't prove to be effective. And then I would drop them. And then I would call them in a year from now and say, hey, why don't we try working together again? I've done this my whole life. I mean, I had to really sit with this yesterday and today. And it's true. Like, I have a pattern of hoping with my fingers crossed that if we go back and rehash this thing, maybe they'll be ready to work through it, but it never ends up working. So the guides are wanting us to vibrate higher now, because every time you make a pit stop or you turn around and you go back to what was and you keep dwelling on the past, you're slowing down your speed of vibration. And you might have every intention in the world to want to have a mature relationship. Like it happened to me the other day. I was having a day where I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna pass by my friend's salon. I haven't seen him in a long time, right? I just wanted to pass by, do a quick check-in. How are you? You look well, you look healthy, maybe go out for a walk and get a coffee. We did that. But then it turned into, come over for a margarita tomorrow. And then I was like, there we go again, right? And I'm not, like Lori Ladd and I were talking the other day. I hang out with people and I'm done. You might not see me for 5 months because I genuinely care about people's welfare, but I don't want to turn it into more, And my guide said to me, Phil, the people from your past are always going to want what you used to have. And you're not in a position, you're not available to give them that anymore. And so we're really being asked right now to mitigate all the dramas that we create and to move forward in our lives. And if they happen to call you for a dinner or for something like that, then you think about it. Yeah, why not? And then if they end up saying, do you want a margarita tomorrow or do you want to come back next week? Hey, I'm really not in a position to do all that right now. I have a lot of things that are on my plate. My plate is full. And I thank you, Steph. I love you. Turtle Flow, Steph, I love you so much. I have things that I have to tend to. I'm not in a position to do that anymore, but I really appreciated our night together. And it was so good to see you, and you're being present within that now moment without needing to string it to another event. And I think humans love to do that. They love to take one moment and turn it into a whole shebang, right? We slept together one night, let's turn it into a relationship. Or we had a summer fling, why did they leave me? This moment doesn't have to be associated to what happened. It really doesn't. And the Arcturians want us to know that within their dimension, within their realm, they don't operate the way that we do. Time doesn't really exist. It's about being fully mindful and fully present within this now moment without needing to chain it to another now moment. We understand, they're saying, we understand. I love how they're coming through me. They said, we understand that you guys need continuity in your stories because without continuity, without a beginning of a movie, there would be no end of a movie. So in your reality, you like to create these stories that you turn into books. And when you die, it ends up being your little book on the shelf that's neatly standing on its spine in the shelf of the Akashic Record. They're saying that we understand that you like to have a story. Yes, it wouldn't be any fun if someone spoiled the movie for you and said, this is what happens in the last scene. You want to go through a continuity journey. But they're also saying that we really want to train you now to be very present, and no longer try to thread what's happening now to what happened a month ago. Someone might have abandoned you, someone might have rejected you, but guess what? That person was still a gift because they were a catalyst for something that was unprocessed or untransmuted or unresolved. Or maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's just training you to be grateful for the fact that they appeared in your life. Simple as that. Okay? So I love you guys. Thank you for the donations. If you would like to donate, I don't expect it. My link is feelgoodlife.com/donate. feelgoodlife.com/donate. I will attach the link in the description box below. If you have not subscribed, please do, because that helps the message get out there. And I will see you in another version of the Now. We love you.